Welcome to the Cathedral Music Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Cathedral Music Podcast. It's finally here. It's January 2020 and this is our first proper episode. We're so glad that you have joined us. There is no better way to start this month's episode than with Juggernaut by John Mark McMillan. Enjoy. Oh my gosh, what a big song. I absolutely love that. That is Juggernaut by John Mark McMillan. Such a euphoric song and such a great way to start our first proper episode. This is Cathedral Music, where we will be celebrating and sharing some of the most creatively interesting and exciting music that explore the themes of God. This is our first podcast. We will be reviewing the music that's been released in the previous month. Each month we will go through our single of the month. We'll go through our favorite record. We'll be looking at some seminal artists and the horizon artists to share some artists that we think you really need to keep an eye out for because they've got a huge future. But before we go any further, let me introduce you to the two guys that make it all possible, our in-house experts on the scene, music industry legends. It is well, I mean, there will be one day, I'm sure. This is a prophetical
Speaking
kind
into
of
being,
like,
mate.
yeah,
You set the bar so high.
Yeah, no, I was like, maybe I should stop at that point and just give you like something that something that you can handle, and now you've got a real status to live up to. So
pressure.
yeah, okay. So I'm all right. Jacob Kemp,
What's up, everybody?
how you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm so excited.
It's gonna be a fun episode.
Yeah, it is. To my left, it is Mark Wakefield.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Good. Mark, how was your Christmas?
It was good, man. Got to chill out with my family
Yeah.
in lovely sunny Devon. It was actually weirdly like warm.
Yeah.
Like I generally wore a t-shirt for most of the Christmas season.
Yeah. I mean, you're normally in shorts anyway.
Yeah, show off the leg tat. Got to get out there. Got to let the people know.
What is your leg tat?
It's an album cover, aptly for someone who's on a musical podcast. It's an album cover from a band called Mallory Knox.
Oh yeah. We did. We
talked
spoke
about
about
that
We
last
did
time.
this.
Yeah,
We did
yeah,
this, Josh.
Okay, cool. Sorry, man. Did you get any good presents?
Yeah, so I'm moving house, and so basically just got a bunch of vouchers, which is such a grown-up Christmas,
Very
but like
grown-up.
loads of vouchers for like house stuff. So nothing like dead exciting like a PlayStation, but exactly what I needed.
And didn't your mum like make a video for you?
My mum did make a video for me, so she traipsed through all the old family footage. My parents are very proud parents, and so they like videoed everything, every moment, every waking moment, and she traipsed through all of it and cut it together into basically like a 2.5 hour movie of my life.
Just Mark.
Yeah, so there's like a bit in there of me taking like sort of like what it was my first ever recorded steps.
Wow.
Man.
There's like my early like acoustic things and band stuff.
Is it like the film Boy?
Yeah, it's essentially my mum's director cut of the film Boy.
Featuring Mark Wakefield.
Yeah,
Wakefield Productions.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Jacob, did you get any sentimental presents like that?
No.
So I win.
Yeah, well, you win, but my wife wins for Know Me Best. She got me books and vinyls, so
Books and vinyls.
I'm happy.
Nice. Any vinyls in particular?
Yep, I got an Amber Run's new album. I got Tom
Nice.
Misch. I got David Bowie from my little brother. I got a Mumford & Sons album. Yeah,
Wow.
loving it.
Good collection.
And what did you get in your Secret Santa? Your vinyl Secret Santa?
What did I get in my vinyl Secret Santa?
Don Broco.
Oh my days! I got Don Broco. Oh my days! That's because we did our Secret Santa on the 6th of December, so it feels like it doesn't count as part of Christmas. But yes, it definitely did. That was fantastic.
Jacob's rock
Thank
and
you.
roll
Thank
transformation
you,
is
Lucy.
complete.
Okay. What about New Year's resolutions?
You asked me this earlier, and I have been so bad, I've genuinely forgot. We were recording this on the 13th of January, and I've already sucked. Mine was to do like some form of exercise every day, and for the first week, I nailed it. And then I don't think I've done it since. We're 2 weeks into 2020.
I've never been prouder of you. What about you, Josh?
Well, this is actually my 30th year of being on the planet.
Woo!
Wait, what?
Yeah, I turned 30
But you look so
this
young
year.
and youthful.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Mark. Yeah, so I think that 30 is like a really interesting age. I've seen a lot of people like sort of step into their, I don't know whether to say calling, but like their skill set, like really owning it. And I'm someone that's probably normally would hold myself back, and so I'm like, do you know what? No,
I feel like you're stepping into that right now, Josh.
on my 30th, I'm gonna step into it with the Cathedral Music Podcast,
Hooray.
which. Yeah, this
Every
is
time you say step in, I just think step into Christmas. Every single time you kept saying it, I was in my head, step into Christmas.
But yeah, this is the first episode of the Cathedral Music Podcast. We've obviously done a 2019 year in review last year, which we recorded on the 18th of November. So in this new format, we will be reviewing the music released in the previous month. So at this point, it will be from the 18th of November through to the 13th of January. And we'll navigate through the episode with our favourite singles of the month, our sit-down album of the month, the Horizon Artist, and the Seminal Artist, as well as a few other things in there, including Pop Culture Moment.
If you like anything that you hear and you want to listen again, then go to our website at thecathedralmusic.com and you'll find a track list of every song that we've played on the episode, so you make it really easy for you to find your new favourite songs.
And we're also going to create a Spotify playlist of all the songs played on the episode, so give us a follow on Spotify.
And while you're in the mood to do some following, head over to social media to Instagram and Facebook for @thecathedralmusic. We post loads of content on there, including New Music Friday, where we shout out the best music that we feel has been released on that day. And you can listen to it fresh.
We'd love to hear from you. Cathedral Music's all about engaging with the following, with the fans, with people just like you and I that want to find God in the most interesting and creative music. So please do get in touch. Send us messages on social media or drop us an email at hello@thecathedralmusic.com. Maybe you agreed or disagreed with one of our reviews. Maybe you've got your own review that you'd like to send in, or maybe there's some artist tracks or bands that we should be listening and profiling. So please get in touch and let us know.
And if you listen to this and absolutely loving what you're hearing so far, then make sure you head over to Part A and Part B of our 2019 year review, which is available on Apple. It's available on Spotify, Podbeam, and SoundCloud.
But guys, we actually had our first review.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, we had our first review from you. So do you want to know? It was from Hairy Scary Mary.
I know her well.
Hairy
Harry Scary Mary.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what do I need to do? The full name, or do I shorten it down to Harry, or whatever? But
I'm going to go with Scary.
let's
I'll go with Little Miss Mary.
Little Miss Mary. So Harry gave us a 5-star rating and titled the review "So on Point."
Oh,
How nice.
That's very sweet.
They wrote just exactly what the Christian music circle needs. These guys are putting the spotlight on other artists who are using amazing creativity to express worship and the gospel in ways that aren't stereotypical worship music, which is and this bit is in capital letters, breath of fresh air. I don't know if they were shouting that bit.
I think they were.
Really want to emphasize
Well,
it.
I think she's definitely not scary, so I think we can just refer to her as Hairy Mary, because that was lovely.
No. Isn't that nice? But yeah, if you're liking what you're hearing as well, please give us a review or share us online or whatever. It would be great to reach out to some new people. But now, let's play our first game, our feature, just to try and get to know...
First ever game.
Our first ever game.
first ever game.
On the spot, Mark, would you like to create a little jingle for our new feature, Shuffle Play?
Shuffle play, it's shuffle play, gonna shuffle and play. If you want to collaborate on any musical production,
So Shuffle Play is a game where I take control of the contestants' music library and I press shuffle on all songs. They have to try and guess the title and the artist of that song and come up with some interesting fact or a story or something behind that song. First up, Mark.
this is terrifying.
Yeah, this is going to be a good way to get to know you guys a little bit and what music you save on your libraries. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm nervous because I pride myself as being the rock guy. I bring the metal to this group, and if it comes up and it's like Scissor Sisters, I think I might cry.
Okay,
I
right.
believe in you.
Here we go. First one.
Come on, shuffle play.
It's just a game, okay? Shuffle Play will be back next month on February's edition, and we'll be playing it with our special guest. Jacob, who is our special guest?
Our special guest is Wild.
Very exciting.
We're very excited.
Yeah. It's his name, but it's also an adjective to describe him. So there's a little teaser to make sure you tune in.
Cool. Onwards and upwards with the show. Each show we will spend a little bit of time focusing on just a few of the tracks that we really like, that really stood out to us. And first up, this is Big by Social Beans.
My whole crew, everything we do is big. My whole crew, everything
Such a big song. See what I did there?
I did. It was very funny, very creative, very original.
Jacob, what you thinking about this song, man?
It's a fantastic track. I mean, I love those guys, Josh and Ryan, and they've been putting out great music since the days of 1224, and I mean, they've done it again. But for me, this is a completely next level. It was basically, it's like one of those songs where you listen to it and I was like, that's going straight on my playlist of jams that I'm listening to at the moment. Yes, it's a great vibe.
I feel like it was like quite a lot grittier as well than some of their other stuff. Like, they've had quite a lot of, a bit of poppy feels in the past as well, which is great. But this one is like it just feels like consistently kind of like harsh and gritty and straight at you.
Particularly when Ryan's bars jump in, they're hard. Like they hit hard. It's got the super Eminem vibes. Like even the breaths feel like Eminem. Like it hits hard.
The cool thing about that is like it's Eminem meets, for me, it's like Eminem meets Stormzy. It's like an American guy doing grime, which is like, you just don't do. Grime's like a London thing, but it's cool. Like hearing Ryan do that. It's awesome.
Yeah. And obviously just got that great big Christopher Wallace shout out in there. Do you know who Christopher Wallace is, Mark?
Yeah, it's actually Big's real name. So there you go. Yeah. That was a little
Were you trying
Google.
to catch him out?
I was trying to catch him out. Do you know what? I think it caught Josh out. I think he was just in there, and I think Ryan came out with it and just shouted out Christopher Wallace, and Josh was like,
"That's cool.
Cool, right? Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna ride it." And then I think producer was like, "Who's Christopher Wallace?" And Josh was like, "I don't know." But they produced it themselves.
Yeah, it's really cool. I was chatting to them about it. Like Josh made the beat. And like the room that we're in right now is where the song started.
Oh, really?
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's a fun fact.
It's fun.
It's fun. Yeah, where they started making the track, and then they finished it off in Ryan's basement, in his studio there.
Nice, and it started to get a bit of a social media sort of following with the dance, right?
Yeah. What a cool way to promote it.
Such a good idea. So for those of you who don't know, they did a big dance challenge, and they issued a challenge out to their fans to do a dance to the track Big. And it went everywhere. Like we saw a couple girls do a thing where they videoed the...
security
yeah,
footage thing?
that's it. Yeah, they videoed the security footage in Asda as they danced in the aisles, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Amazing.
And I was prepping for this, and I was looking on their Instagram to see like, what all the dance challenges, and the first one is me and you, Mark, and Mike in the car just vibing to the track. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't realize we did this.
We made it onto their Instagram page.
I think you called me soon after that and was like, have you heard the new social media song? If you haven't, turn it up loud in a car.
Yeah. It's so fun.
Cool. So that is the first song that we think you really, really need to check out this month. We'll be highlighting a few other tracks later in the episode, but here's just a few other shout outs of great songs that have been released in the last month.
Cathedral Music.
Okay, next up is our Horizon Artist of the Month. Each month, we will be profiling a new and upcoming artist that we really like and think you need to get into your lives because they've got a great big future ahead of them. This month, we interviewed the incredible John Webster via Skype. So some of the connection does drop out a little bit, so it does get a bit choppy, but he is a great guy with a brilliant heart. To give you a taste of what he's like, here's a few of his songs.
Horizon Artist of the Month.
Yeah, so we are really excited to have our first guest on the Cathedral Music Podcast. Joining us live from Cape Town is John Webster.
What's up, guys?
What's up, bro?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing amazing.
And how's your day been?
It's been a pretty chill day. Like, I was supposed to go on a hike, and I slept in.
That's the best way to do a hike.
Wait, I went to a coffee shop called Flat Mountain. So I technically still went on a hike.
Yeah.
I Ubered to Flat Mountain, got a lot, and then I sat by the pool. So it was a great day.
Sick, man.
Oh, nice.
Sounds like the dream hike.
Yes.
That's when everyone says they want to go for a hike, what they really want to do is sleep in and then go to a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Via Uber.
Via Uber.
Strong.
So you're technically from the States though originally. What brings you to South Africa?
Yeah, I was on a One Big Family tour, and I shook this kid's hand, and instantly I knew we were going to be great friends. And later in November, they asked me if I would come and accompany them with like worship and helping with any like creative things that they needed to help articulate their mission here. And do some photography and videography. So I said yes, and God provided in 2 days, and I got a flight.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's amazing. So literally in 2 days, and then you decided, and now you're there in South Africa. That's awesome.
It's so rock and roll.
So you said, so you're leading worship there, and you're doing photography and video. How do you manage to balance your, obviously, because we're interviewing you as an artist. How do you balance your videography and your photography and your music all kind of as one person?
Yeah, I would say that I think it started as when I was younger, just being able to. I was that person that I was like, dang, I'm not excellent at one thing. I'm just good at a lot of things. And I really was envious of all the people that were excellent at that one thing. But from there, I just use the other thing to bounce off of one another. So if that's photography for music or music for video, it helps me stay centered and not exhaust one art form over the other.
Yeah, that's really cool, bro.
Cool. And so obviously you're a dancer as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of, as I've been like looking at you, I was like, is there anything this guy doesn't do? He's like one of these frustrating guys that's extremely talented at everything.
Yep.
But what's been some of your like creative journey that's got you to this point?
Yeah, actually, I didn't do music. Like, I didn't even sing until about 3 years ago.
No way.
That's mad,
And
bro.
I picked up the guitar about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, so I was just like, I grew up dancing, acting, and modeling my whole life. So like that was like the context of creative expression for me. And then, yeah, I just had this crazy encounter with God, and just started. No one was like saying the things I wanted to say, or like singing the things. And even it started out as, I think I fell in love with the concept of worship. So it was a gift given to me in the context of worship. So when I used it for anything else, it would make more sense in the long run, because I knew that it could be me like doing a worship song or a Christian pop song or just like a cultural song, but I knew it was all coming from like the same place.
Wow.
That's
mad.
really cool, bro.
I never would have guessed that you were so new to it. Like listening to your music, never ever would have guessed you were so new. Because like listening to tracks like Elohim and stuff, like your like creative melodies and stuff are so cool. It seems so honed, and to be only doing it for such a short time shows, I think, like you're saying, that kind of natural creativity. I think that's really awesome. So if you've been so new to kind of like the guitar and things like that, what would you say musically has been your biggest influences in that time?
Yeah, so like things that have inspired me musically would probably be, my dad would take me to school and he would have like rock and roll music on.
That's awesome.
And like, but then I always grew up listening to like the whole alternative, like super indie slurred, whimsical melodies. So that was a big influence for me. And then I think just being like someone, so like I'm half Cherokee Indian, so it's like, for people that are not in America, that's like native people to America. And then obviously, if you don't know, listening to this, I'm African American. So I think just like even in the heritage of how I'm made, those things also brought in those rhythms and like things deep within me. So, and then pair that with dancing, I guess, and like everything being intentional, because I look at every art form basically in layers. So if I'm wanting to make a 3D painting, I'm going to start with the base level. I'm going to see the full picture and I'm going to build on from there. So I might not have known what like a flat 7 was or any of these things, but I knew that I would want to connect a melody and a message to each other and articulate it in a way that it could best be received and get stuck in your spirit, so that it's always like something that you go back to.
Yeah, for sure, bro. And so what and would you say that's bled into your kind of your music, and why like you've got you've released 7 singles, right? And there's sort of so many different genres within kind of that. Do you think that's part of like, that's how it's flowed into that? Yeah,
definitely. The biggest thing, I mean, we could talk about this now, but Yeah, about I think I'm on month 11. Yeah, I'm on month 11. I dropped everything I owned, and about 11 months ago, I was just like, God, I'll do this music thing, like, because it wasn't enough even for me just to do the whole worship thing. It was like, I need to like create a world within 3 minutes with a melody.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so I was like, how can I do this? And I was like, I don't produce, but I know exactly what I want, you know? And I want, so many times people desire something, but they want to do it all by themselves. And nothing was built by one person. I would just say I'm an investment of a lot of different things and a lot of different people. So I was sitting at the Send in Florida, and I said, God, I'll do this if you like bring the producers. So me not knowing that, I think for a music video for Ecclesia, and he ended up saying, I feel like God wants me to produce a song for you. And
wow.
Earlier that year, like a year and a half, I got a guitar handed to me, and that's when I started learning. I was like, I'm learning the G chord today, so I'm going to write a song with
Wow.
you know?
Awesome.
So I had all these songs that really, really shaped my life that I would plan to like release this coming year, like starting the project after I settled from this year. But it started off with me working with Ecclesia. So it was I felt like God had a greater thing on my life to basically tie the entire art community together. So I was like going to these artists. So every song that I've been released have been from other bands that people have probably also like listened to. So if that's
really cool,
like doing my first song, The Lady doing Caught Up, like you have different people doing different songs. Because I came to them, I said, you can't really change the melody and the message, but the production style, I want it to be very you. Like all these first songs have just been out of pure fun.
Wow, yeah, that's cool, man. So, what are your plans and any big hopes for 2020?
Yeah, so I have 2 more songs left to mark of these singles, and I've been really ambiguous, just putting out music, but then I'll bring full language to everything when I do a rework. So I'm actually while I'm here, I'm gonna be doing like an Afro-inspired version of Elohim. So I'm gonna rework all the songs and then just release it as an album, and then give context to those things, and then join some friends on like some tours, like, and doing like a small band, like small piece, like maybe a drummer, someone to do the XPD, and then electric guitar. So I'm really excited for that. But after this year, I plan on settling. I'm still in the works of figuring out in the stage where I'm going to settle, but I'm going to settle and then basically take the same type of, I've worked with a lot of different people this year. Some songs made it, some songs didn't. And I'm going to return to those people with higher budget and want to articulate actually the songs. There'll be a totally different feel, more traditional instruments, way more intimate, more ballad album. So that's like the ultimate goal.
That's awesome, bro. That's really cool. So so you mentioned an album. When can people expect that? And also where can people find you online?
Yeah. Dang, when I say verbalize, I'm gonna have to actually do it. I'm hoping for like October.
Cool, man.
Wow.
Awesome.
Because I'm gonna be going across like the country and honestly the world, like here in Cape Town and London, to be able to work with friends to get the sweetest sound and the most natural thing.
Yeah.
So I would rather take my time than to rush
it. Yeah.
Something. Yeah, and you can find me online through literally all platforms under John Webster, Jon Webster, like the dictionary. Instagram and all the things it's John Webster, literally ITS, to keep it fun for everybody.
Dude.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone listening, you need to go and check out Jon Webster. He is our first Horizon artist. We think he's got a big future, a great sound, and we really think you should check him out. We'll now play one of your tracks, if that's cool.
Yeah, totally.
Sweet. Let's go with Where the Wind Blows. Enjoy.
You are my oxygen, the air that I'm breathing.
Cool, what a great guy. You should definitely go check him out on Instagram and Spotify. Now, though, it's time to move on to our standout track of the month. There has been some incredible releases this month, but this is the song that we decided was the most significant, that really stood out to us, and it is the incredible Paid My Dues by NF. Enjoy.
Clicks, 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 they'll do anything to... Only a man, I'm a human
Oh
being.
my gosh.
What a jam.
Pay my dues.
Yes, Mark, that's how it goes.
Did you record that?
Yeah, those are my vocals. yeah.
Cool. Oh man, Jacob, like what stood out to you with that one?
You know what? NF knows. I think NF knows what he's doing. I mean, since what is it? Last year or the year before, when he broke into the charts across the UK. In the States, he got 2 number ones. I think his other track made it to number 2 in the UK. And he's been grafting and he's grafting and he's releasing some really good music. And Paid My Dues is just another great track and in an incredible discography that he's got.
Yeah, I think like it's a really interesting journey he's been on as well, because he was signed to Capital Christian Music Group.
Yeah,
like it was a Christian record label that he's on, and he's now literally topping the album charts in the States.
Yep.
In the UK as well. So to go from that journey is a really interesting one. When you hear a lot of commentary about the sacred secular divide. Are you a Christian musician?
It's really, really interesting.
Are you not?
And then someone like NF, who's like just been on tour with Logic.
Yeah.
And then there's lots of questions with the Christians are being like, well, should a secular artist go on? Should a Christian artist go on tour with the secular artist? Is that okay? Is that not okay?
And it's really interesting to make that sort of transition to go more mainstream rather than like trying the mainstream, like, I'm not really making it, whereas I can just fall back on a Christian community where I know I'll have like a place and it'll be okay. But he's gone the other way and gone big, and like Lauren Daigle's obviously doing a similar journey as well, like taking America by storm. So his journey is quite incredible, and I think a real breath of fresh air for musicians and people wanting to channel their faith through music, and not just their faith but just their journey. He's quite interesting. He said he was asked about whether he was like a Christian rapper, and he said, not at all. I mean, I'm a Christian, but I'm just an artist. I'm a musician. You know what I mean? To me, it's like if you're a Christian and you're a plumber, are you a Christian plumber?
That's a really good way of looking at it.
Like he's just an artist that is recording his life. He's just recording his story, and obviously there's a real Christian message behind it, but it's really picking up traction.
And he deserves the success.
Yeah.
He's like, he's sick, and he knows what to do. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
I think it's that almost that natural overflow, then, isn't it? Of like, instead of saying I'm gonna write this Christian track, instead of saying I'm gonna write a track, and because Jesus is such a big part of my life, he's obviously going to feature in this music, and that authenticity comes across, and that's so massive today. And what people are massively looking for and searching for is authentic art and authentic people. And by bringing that out and saying, actually, you know what, I'm going to write this song, I'm going to write Pay My Dues, and because God is such a massive part of my life, it's going to leak into it. It's obviously going to be a part of it. I think it's a really fresh expression. I think probably where a lot more artists are going to go.
And it's such a big song, and it starts with this kind of like this tense kind of building sort of
with like the orchestration, yeah.
And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you get like that 1 minute in, and then suddenly he just like goes in like with like just that speedy rap as well. It just
the flow
hits
completely switches, and he just starts speeding up until he gets to that chorus.
And
that
that's
chorus,
such a payoff, because you've been having that 1 minute of build, like something's coming, something's happening, something like I'm ready for something new, and then something drops and it keeps going, like something's happening, and then when it comes in and you're just like, yeah, I feel it.
Oh man, it's one of those ones that you just want to like have as loud as you possibly can in the car. I feel like, and just immerse yourself in it. This brilliant big song,
and with those woos that go like what, Mark?
Woo, woo, woo!
You just want to join in the chorus when you're like driving around. It's sick.
That's what we wanted when we were in the studio when we wrote it. When I was there when we wrote it.
Brilliant. So go check that out. That is Pay My Dues by NF. Next, we're going to move on to the Sit Down Album of the Month.
Sit Down Album of the Month.
So this month's Sit Down Album of the Month, it was an easy decision. We were really excited about this release. It is Sweet Number 2, World Keeps Spinning, An Antidote to Modern Anxiety by The Brilliance. I mean, first of all, what an album title.
Yeah. And to the point, like that's the whole album right there.
Yeah.
Like it's totally it. So good.
Very 1975-esque
Yeah.
album name. Mark, what stood out to you with this album?
I was so surprised at how much I love this. It's so far away from my normal genre, and I really enjoyed the singles, but nothing grabbed me quite like the album as a whole project grabbed me.
100%.
Like so many, like when I listened to Facebook, it was cool, but it didn't grab me like it did when it was in context of the album.
Yeah.
So much of the songwriting, so much of the lyrics, so much of the heart made sense as a project.
Yeah.
And so when I got my second or third listen through, I was like, oh, I get it. And I found myself going back to the singles and listening to them on their own, and again letting them grab me all over again, because it really is a full story.
Yeah.
Like it, like I said, an antidote to modern anxiety. There are so many like tense moments lyrically in this, and so many moments that produce this anxiety, and so many moments of that complete relief and complete resolution. It's just delicious.
Because I totally agree. That was the first thing I took away from that album was the concept, the piece of it all together. Because the first interestingly, the first single they released was "Holding On," which was released in March, I think. Oh, wow. And then "World Keeps Spinning" was released in September. Was the next single. So the difference between the two. I mean, I was thinking, "Holding On," like is it just that they've recorded a cool song or whatever and just put it out there? But actually, it's part of the project. And then I was like, but "Holding On" so different to "The World Keeps Spinning."
How's it going to fit?
And I was like thinking, I don't know, like, and then obviously they had a trail of other songs. And I was thinking, "Holding On" must be just one they've just done in the other. But actually, it's on the album. And then when you hear them all together, suddenly it's pieced together as this incredible piece of art, as this brilliant journey, and it's made up with these real little interludes as well, isn't it? You know, you got like little 1 minute or 30-second, 40-second tracks in there that just meander you through along the journey onto the next piece, and together as a whole, it is one incredible album.
It's absolutely fantastic. And the funny thing you said that came out about March, I was reading like on their Instagram, they said this has taken 3 years to make.
Wow.
Just imagine like spending 3 years like consumed by like one musical project, but then if you spend 3 years and it comes out sounding like this, then you would, wouldn't you? Yeah, time well spent.
Yeah.
And it's I love that it's just such an organic and like the pure instrumentation of like how Biola University kind of start on track one, and then they come back with the choral stuff, and then they come back later on, and like the orchestra and the chorale, it kind of pulls the entire album together, and it makes it feel like such an album rather than, like you said, like a bunch of like different singles. And that's like not always the case with albums, and an album's not bad if it feels like a bunch of singles, but when an album feels so sort of organic and that like everything was put in place
for
and
a
kind
reason.
of exactly like they've just and they would have created it, I would imagine, like they would have like been making a puzzle, and they're like, well, we're still missing that piece, so we need to create that, and we're still missing that piece, and as they put it together. And I'm so excited. I mean, I already absolutely love this album. I'm so excited to sort of fall in love with it as time goes on, because I think, I mean, it's January, the second week of January, but this is already a contender for my top albums of 2020, and I'll be surprised if it didn't make it in that top 10.
I think weirdly enough, like one of my favorite things about the album was the track listing, the ordering of which they did stuff, and how that enables the storytelling so much more. Again, like what you were saying, like when an album feels like one cohesive message, it just makes it so much richer. And I think the way that they told the story through the very specific, like you're saying, specific tracks and specific elements of storytelling was amazing. Again, like one of the things that really gripped me was the middle section, kind of like from "I Shall Not Fear," "I Want to Know," and "Moods," and how they were so kind of stripped back and provided this kind of this anxious moment where so many things were changing. The music feels different, the production is different. On "Moods," you get that really like MIDI sounding kit, and it kind of is almost like reflective lo-fi, and it's just so. And then you get to these last three tracks, which are so hopeful and uplifting. Like "Just Be," it's fun, and then. And you have that like sense of awe in "World Keeps Spinning," when that massive oof moment when the orchestra kicks in at like 40 seconds, that just blew me away, and it was just like, Yeah, so good.
Lyrically, it's a really deep place, isn't it? And I was really interested, Mark, in your thoughts, because obviously with Amongst Wolves, you guys do a lot of work focusing on mental health, anxiety, depression, and they tackle that very openly and clearly in this. And you know, even onto things like existential dread, and you know, they said about Release Me, you know, came from a real personal place of anxiety that, you know, he was saying that he actually resulted in genuine like anxiety for the first time, and stress pains and chest pains, and that moment for him, and both Gungo and Aunt on it are saying that they journeyed through that anxiety. And how do you find those sort of comments and exploring of mental health and anxiety through the medium of music?
I mean, I think anyone doing it is a big help. You know, anyone talking about it is a massive help. People who, you know, in the past we've kind of avoided the issue as a creative collective, and now it's coming way out in the forefront that it's okay and actually really positive thing to be talking. And so to actually hear someone so open and vulnerable throughout all their music was really refreshing. I think how do we know? For me, that second track was like big in terms of all that massive existential questioning that we can all get caught up in. And again, then the resolution towards the ends of the track of like, you know, we're here for more than the end of the world. It's just like all of these really beautiful resolutions to all of these massive questions was really cool. And again, that whole project feeling of it's a process of working through all these things. And there isn't a single track on here that makes it feel like there was a quick fix for this anxiety. It feels like, you know, it's a process, it's a learning process. We grow, we learn, and we're here for more than the suffering. We're here for more than that. We're here for more than the end of the world, which seems to be like that mantra that kept coming back. And I just thought it was actually, just so refreshing to hear someone so open and vulnerable in so many different ways, lyrically, musically, just exploring that subject.
And they go through a lot of the divisive nature of politics and social media in the news in the US at the moment, and Facebook, the song I read that they were saying about it that you get this menacing theme. What happens when people feel like they own the truth? Oftentimes, truth becomes violent. What happens when someone has a different take than you? You somehow feel like you need to be a little bit aggressive or get defensive, and it becomes weaponized.
Wow. How
can we ever know the truth is a line that they keep singing that. And obviously we see a lot in, like, you know, with the concept of fake news and the use of social media and like Cambridge Analytica and all that sort of content, you know, online to try and manipulate our thoughts. You know, Jacob, how did you sort of process all of that sort of dark, deep content that they're doing it, but in the backdrop of this idea that no matter what's going on, the world keeps spinning?
Yeah, I think they did that in such a clever way. I remember Matty Healy from 1975 said a lot of people struggle to listen to deep songs when the music is really depressing and moody. So that's why like they do like pop music and then they add deep lyrics on top of it. And I think that there is deep and moody parts like Mark was talking about, but then there is some parts, the strings like very cinematic and like the fuzzy guitars and it's so cool. Like who adds like a lo-fi drum beat onto like next to an orchestra?
Do you know what was really cool that a little bit of production? I don't know if it's noticed, but in Facebook they go, what is it? We're all looking for someone to save us, and then they do that typical alien sound, like woo, like we're looking for someone to come and save us, and like, you know, it's almost like, is it even going to come up from up there or whatever? But it's just a real interesting bit of production, just a little thing.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I think it's littered with loads of stuff like that.
But it's just a huge album that takes you on a real journey. Yeah. So let's give you a little taste of one of the tracks from our Sit Down album of the month. This is Facebook by The Brilliance from the incredible album Suite Number 2, World Keeps Spinning, an Antidote to Modern Anxiety.
Cathedral Music.
Each month, we will pay tribute to one of the incredible artists that have gone before us, paving the way, creating some incredible music and shifting the boundaries of what it is to explore faith through music. That will be part of our Seminal Artist of the Month feature. First up, it is one of my personal favourites. He's an incredible guy that's been making music for a long time now and changing a lot of the culture and the landscape within the Christian music scene. It is John Mark McMillan. some really big, substantial, incredible hits there from John Mark McMillan. Genuinely one of my personal heroes, someone that has done a lot for this music industry. Jacob, what are your sort of thoughts on John Mark McMillan's career and his music, and why we've chosen him for Seminal Artist of the Month?
For sure, he's been going for a long time, and he's, like you said, he's contributed so much to like the musical part of like the Christian culture, but as part of like the congregational worship part, which is really cool that he's been able to balance kind of both of those things. And you listen through to his albums from like Borderland and then Mercury and Lighting, and his newest album as well. There's so much art and so much creativity, and with all of that, he's still kind of. I don't actually know. Did he write How He Loves Us and King of My Heart? Did he write those intentionally as like congregational songs, or did they just happen to become?
Well, quite an interesting story behind How He Loves, which is kind of a hard hitter one. So the song's actually got quite a lot of sentimental meaning for McMillan, and he wrote it following the death of a dear friend of his who died.
Wow.
Basically, they had a church staff meeting, and his friend stood up and is quoted as saying, "If it would shake the youth of a nation, I would give my life today." And then later that night, John Mark McMillan was woken up by a call in the middle of the night to say that guy had passed away.
What? Wow.
And dealing with the grief and the pain of that, he sort of channeled that into this song, which he'd already started working on before.
Okay.
And this is sort of that.
Wow.
It's really interesting because he never sort of, I don't think he intentionally sets out to write congregational worship. It just sort of, sometimes it happens, and it happens incredibly, like with that and King of My Heart, and sometimes it's just...
Yeah.
It's crazy. I saw an interview with him, said, when asked whether he was a worship leader, and he said philosophically he would consider himself a worship leader, but technically and culturally he would not.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. And it was really interesting because in the same interview, it was like, he was with an interviewer, and the interviewer was really trying to push that sort of sacred secular divide, like saying there's some things that are sacred and there's some things that are secular, and you separate the two. And he was like, you could see him like, he's very polite and very nice. The guy was like, you could see him sort of stopping his tracks, and it's like, I understand your point, but I have a lot of fun trying to blur those lines.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, check this out. Like he said, he does it because he loves the idea of Christ being a part of his everyday life, the sanctification of the common life.
Wow, it's deep.
I love that.
Yeah,
and I feel like as Cathedral, that's kind of what we really want to try and achieve. That you don't have to separate God from music. You don't have to separate God from your heart and your expressions, because whether you're a Christian or not, you're not constantly in a state of just praising in church.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen in life. Friends die. You'll be dealing with marriages and relationships and everything like that. And to bring God in the center of it all, to the outworkings of your thoughts and your processes, and to find God in those moments, whether that's in a recording studio or at home with the kids or whatever. But the idea of this sanctification of the common life is like a really interesting concept that I love the exploration of Cathedral music.
Yeah, fantastic.
And that's the crazy thing about music, isn't it? Is that like you will not be the only person with a story like that about these songs. You won't be the only person. Like the buck won't stop with you, but actually there'll be so many people who've used this stuff to process massive events, and to be able to do that with someone like you said, who's blurring the lines between secular and Christian, and who's able to blur those lines so well. Actually, by being able to introduce God into all of those dark and difficult situations is such a beautiful privilege that sometimes as creators we get to speak into a way that other people in other areas will never get to, because you're in that personal place. When you're in a low moment and you're listening to music, you listen to a favorite artist and they say something that speaks to you. Often it can be in the isolation of your room, or going for a walk, or quite often it's on our own, and you get to speak into that private, quiet place that not many other people get to do. And actually God uses those quiet places, those quiet moments, and these beautiful lyrics, these honest, real situations, and says, I'm here, like I'm with you, and I love you. I think that's such a precious privilege that we get to experience as listeners, as people who appreciate it, and as creative writers of music. We have such a privilege to be able to be in those still, small, quiet places with one person who we may never meet, never interact with, anything but our lyrics.
I had the privilege of seeing him live a few weeks ago before Christmas.
Yeah, I remember you saying, how was that?
Oh my gosh, it was you know, when we're talking about this concept of a worship leader and what is worship, and it was really interesting because Rivers and Robots played before. They were, you know, a brilliant act, and they had lyrics on the screen. And then John Mark McMillan came on, and he had no lyrics on the screen.
Wow, okay.
Really interesting statement to intentionally not do that. And to sort of, you know, are you saying is this a gig or a worship set?
Yeah.
And yet actually both my wife and I found it to be one of the most worshipful experiences in our life. And there was moments where we could just pause and allow the ministry of his music. We could allow, you know, God to come through the quality and the artistry of what he did to speak to us. And it was just one of the most moving moments. And things like, there was really interesting little things he did. So when he did do How He Loves, he actually got off stage, unplugged guitar, acoustic,
That's so
just
cool.
him and his wife and one of the musicians next to him, and they just there and just stood in the middle of the crowd and just sung that. And obviously everyone knows all the lyrics, and so we just like worship together in that
so
really
cool.
moment of like stepping away from this big production thing to just being in with us. And
I bet that was so cool.
oh my gosh, it was incredible.
I'm assuming he did Sloppy Wet Kiss.
He
not
did
Unforeseen Kiss.
Yeah, he did Sloppy Wet Kiss, and it's such a crazy experience, such a wonderful experience at his gigs, because he spends almost just as much time giving you the story of the song as he does actually giving you the song, and it was incredible. It really was. Like, you're hanging on I think he could read like an iPhone manual, and I'd be like, I've got to find out how this ends. Like, I really, and then what happened, and then, you know, what's next, like, because he's just got this tone, this incredible delivery, and he is such a storyteller. But musically, he's really interesting as well, because he's gone on such a journey. Obviously, he released his first album in 2002, Hope Anthology Volume 1, and the song inside, The Sound of Breaking Down, which is where you know, How He Loves Us is from. And he goes on a bit of a journey as well, through like economy and medicine. But it's almost like he starts, you know, with this quite grungy sound, quite rocky sound in those early records, starts finding it in medicine and economy, and then Borderland hits, and that is like where I feel like it all makes sense for John Mark McMillan. That's like when he owns his style, he steps into it. It is personally my favorite Christian faith-based album, I think.
Wow, cool.
And that's from 2014. And so like,
and it's still living on today. Like, since 2014, it still holds up as your favorite.
And
that's really cool.
And so, going from that journey of that first release in 2002 to 12 years later, being 2014, with this thing where he really steps in, and then obviously Mercury and Lightning and the new songs as well. Like,
it shows a big journey as well to go from 2002 and to still be relevant today in regards to, because like How He Loves Us came out in 2002, which is like 18 years ago, and then King of My Heart came out probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and that was another big song. But then like Borderlands being such a big song, and one of my favorite things from like the Mercury and Light, he recorded Mercury and Light, and then you were talking about the sessions, and I really liked, you talked about his explanation of the songs, and then I thought what was really cool is he'd made this gorgeous album, Mercury and Lightning, and then he'd kind of split it in half and reimagined the songs. One of my favorites was the Mercury Sessions, which came out in 2018, which is a song called Wilder Love. And that had like Joy Williams on it, who was one half of the Civil Wars, which is like one of my favorite bands. And like her signature harmonies were like all over that track, and it was really cool to hear kind of the original Wilder Love was like this really big kind of song, and they like really just kind of made it kind of gentle and stripped it back, and his and her vocals weave in throughout the whole thing. And then like the next one, the Lightning Sessions, he gets Propaganda on one of his tracks, and that's so cool. I mean, Propaganda is a spoken word artist or a rap artist, and they kind of reimagine this song, and he raps over it and does some spoken word. It's super cool.
It's a great album because as well he was like having he quite openly says about like almost an existential crisis at that time, and they had to he was saying like, we need to pause on the making of this album because there's a lot of questions I got to deal with. I don't know if I can sing about this, and so I need to work it out. And then the producer said to him, look mate, why don't you rather than work it out and then come back, why don't you use this record to try and work it out yourself, and
so cool.
Be okay to say that I don't know and I don't understand, and things like that. You know, in the wilder love and the wilderness, I think, you know, you kind of understand a little bit where he's at, and he's getting, I mean, just the beauty in some of those lyrics. Are you in the wilderness in a four-fast drone to the rise of your vast expanse, and I feel so underdressed, so civilized and small by the powers that you possess. And he's working it out with this beautiful imagery of where am I, where are you, how do we fit together. But then that's backed up with this incredible style now as well, because obviously he's got this like these big sort of like 80s and 90s sounds in there. He's got like the kind of the rototom drum sounds.
That's literally one thing I wrote down, because I'm like, rototoms is something that I heard in like 2014's like Borderland, and it's like something that he's still coming back to with like Bright Abyss and Juggernaut and his new singles. I think it's like really cool that there's this kind of an artistry that he's kind of like, I've latched onto it a little bit, and he's using it across, and it's kind of tying up. And man, Bright, and you were talking about the different kind of genres. Bright Abyss is an absolutely fantastic track. It's just such a cool song. It's like definitely one of my favorite things he's done. It's really cool to see someone who is already super open to have fun and experiment in the music in the studio, pushing more into that. Like it could almost be like a King's Kaleidoscope track. And the second chorus is like really cool. I love it when all the kids like start coming in and screaming. It's like King's Kaleidoscope meets Bon Iver meets like MGMT. It's just super cool.
So let's play one of John Mark's tracks. I think this is my favorite track of his. This is Guns Napoleon.
You're landing on my shore.
It's time for the pop culture moment of the show. At this part, we want to shed a light on moments where faith, Christianity, existential questions, any of that stuff has brushed the mainstream media. And in last month, Coldplay released a really interesting album called Everyday Life. And a lot of the topics in that explored ideas and thoughts around faith. Chris Martin is someone that's renowned for providing a little bit of a narrative on those sort of thoughts in the past, maybe pro or anti-religion, universalism type stuff or whatever. But there's really undeniable Christian content in this, whether he's intentionally mean it as a personal reflection of his state of mind or whether he's just exploring stuff. But it was really interesting, thought we'd explore. Mark, what were the moments on this that really spoke to you in terms of the faith element that he's reflecting?
I think it's always really interesting to hear someone explore faith from a perspective that isn't the norm. Someone who's grown up around church, or someone who's grown up with that kind of Christianese, or someone who hasn't experienced faith like I think a vast majority of Christians have. So to hear someone coming at it from that different perspective, I always find really interesting. And there were lots of moments on this album which had those kind of moments where we would explore that. Like you said, he's widely kind of recognised as a bit of a universalist, kind of exploring different things but never really landing in one place. But in this album, we saw him kind of poke a bit more personally, I think, into Christianity than we have before specifically. One of the tracks, Broken, had the lyrics, Lord, when I'm broken and I'm in need, I feel that ocean swallowing me. Head is hanging so sorrowfully. Oh, Lord, come shine your light on me. I don't think you'd be surprised to read that in Psalms. I don't think you'd be surprised to see that in Scripture, because it's on the money. It's theologically there. Someone crying out to God and very specifically and personally talking to a Lord character.
And if you're looking at genre, it is a gospel song.
It fully, like that's what I was gonna say. It fully feels like a gospel song. The lyrics, and it's so cool how like mainstream this. Well, it's Coldplay, so it is. Well, it's not really a mainstream song, but it's Coldplay, so it's mainstream. It's so cool that's what it's saying, and this song topped album charts all across the world, and I really like the vibe of it as well. It's just so stripped back. It's just keys, a kick, vocals, and they're all kind of like clicking along, and the choir in the background. It's really cool.
And then you've got also an actual song called Church. And the lyrics are, because when I'm hurt, that's when I'll go to your church. Now, what I thought was really interesting is this consistent theme that is in the first half, because the album's split into two, isn't it? And these are the ones on part 8, and it's this consistent theme, because then it goes on as well to when I need a friend, holy, holy, dove descend, soft and slowly, when I'm near the end, holy, holy, God defend, shield me, show me, when I need a friend, slowly, slowly, violence end, love reign over me, when I need a friend. And I feel like those 3 songs very clearly, undeniably reflect God. When I Need a Friend is also like a choral, like it's a full-on, it's a hymn, I think. I think it's a hymn. And each one of them, he's at this point where he's basically saying, which is what's reflected in Church, when I'm hurt, when I'm in pain, I need you, Father.
Mm.
I think is really
Yeah.
what this consistency
It is.
between them.
It is interesting. One thing I noticed on the end of Church, though, I was like sort of really excited about that. He does say right at the end. He says, "I worship you in church, baby, always." So the interesting thing for me there, he's like, he understands that church is sort of a place of refuge where I can find hope, where I can find peace, where I can find a savior. But my question is what is he currently who is he trying to find his refuge in? But for me, it's so cool to see Coldplay, like an indie band turned pop band, who are arguably one of the world's biggest bands in the world. I mean, their tour last year lasted 2 years. They were playing at the entire world, playing in front of 70,000 plus people a night. And it's so cool to see them step out and release songs like Broken, which is a gospel song, When I Need a Friend, which is a gospel song, and even like the political song about, the song Guns, and they're pushing forward, and it's like, we need more guns, which is so like that kind of ironic, tongue in cheek, like.
Yeah. What did you think of the Arabic singing at the end of Church as well? Don't know if you knew the translation. There's some Arabic singing at the end, and the lines are, "My Father, O Allah, O powerful, omnipotent, why did you leave me? Liberty, O Allah, God, love, general one another, O Allah."
Which is interesting, and it's interesting that he's asking questions and he's pushing, and the really interesting thing with using the kind of that language is they did their gig promotion. They were in Jordan as the sun rose and then as the sun set, and they're trying to tie in all of those things together. Amongst that song.
And it's interesting because you use the word Allah, but Allah is just God, right, in Arabic.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we could work out what God he's attributed that to.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's chosen to sing it in Arabic, which is interesting. And I don't know if either of you two have seen Messiah on Netflix yet.
No.
Well, the first episode's really, that's all I've seen. First episode's really interesting, but he is in a Muslim country and he does say like Allah. And obviously they're thinking, Muhammad. And then there's a viewer, because there's a link to Christianity, you're thinking, is he God? Like, is it the Christian God? And you're just working it out, and it's not resolved it at that point with which one it is. But it's just interesting that actually the word Allah just being God. Cool. Let's move on to our final track that we want to give a bit of specific airtime to. This is a track called "If I'm Honest" by a new and upcoming artist called Megan Brown.
I'll never see myself.
This song just seemed to come out of nowhere. Like, this was her first song, and for a first single,
It's
that
absolutely
just
gorgeous, mate.
hits you, doesn't it?
I listened to it in my car, and we were driving around, and my wife got out to go into the house, and I just was sat there in the car. I was just like, I need to finish listening to the song.
Yeah.
Like, it absolutely floored me. It's that chorus and that bridge and back to the chorus, and just even listening to it now, it stirs something up, and it's incredible.
Yeah, and the intimacy which she creates in there, which is incredible, because obviously the lyrics are like, if I'm honest, obviously it's trying to get some kind of like integrity, some kind of vulnerability with it, and just delivers this lovely, beautiful, intimate song, which fights a bit of the temptation, I think, because when you listen to the end and it's built up to this big crescendo that sounds really big, but when you listen to the percussion, is a kick drum just doing a beat on the beat, and then there's a little bit of like crashy cymbals just to just give a bit of a swell. And you could have very easily just gone, oh right, let's do the standard sort of like soft rock 4/4 beat just to give it that the emphasis at the end, but it avoids that to keep more of this vulnerability, but the cleverness to create a big sound with
and they
such
build it
minimalism.
with the synths, and then they have the vocals and that kind of vocoder, or that kind of it kind of hugs the vocals across the, like, if I'm honest, like it just follows it through, and it really reminds me of one of my favorite songs in 2008. That was a long time ago. Was a band called Copeland released a song called an album called "You Are My Sunshine." And the song on that called "On the Safest Ledge," like, it just gave me like the same emotions that song did. Like, I don't know if you ever get that, where a song just brings you back to another moment when you heard another song, and it gave me those same kind of emotions. And when it gets to that second half of the bridge, I don't know if you guys remember, it's like, I want to see you how you see me. I want to know you how you know me. I want to love you how you love. It's just like, if I'm honest.
I think what they achieve in terms of that like minimalist approach, what you're saying, you know, in terms of minimalist drums, that synth that builds, and like the soaring, like piercing and beautiful vocals, like what they managed to achieve with that approach, I think is awesome. And it has such a beautiful kind of like every now and then you hear songs and you get those little chills. I feel like there was about 7 or 8 moments in this track where I had that, and it was like, oh, okay, like they've really produced something really beautiful. And
Yeah, and it's cool. This is kind of the journey that Cathedral wants to go on. You know, we're celebrating one song that is by an artist who's got to the top of the US Billboard charts, you know, hundreds of millions of plays on Spotify. And then we're on to Megan Brown, who's got 2 songs on Spotify at the moment. One's got like 22,000 plays, one's got 1,000 plays, like, you know, but it's, you know, we want to find these artists that are creating brilliant music, interesting, exciting, creative music, no matter what stage they're at.
It's just like what John said in the interview, isn't it, where he was talking about, you know, there are people in the underground who are producing fantastic music who just need that moment to go somewhere. And, you know, it's not necessarily about achieving success, but it's making sure that that music gets to the right ears and gets to the people it's going to connect with and going to have that emotional resonance that ultimately is going to lead us closer to God and have an encounter with God and understand more about who he is and his creation and his love for us and all of that incredible stuff. And it's saying just giving that one person that moment in the spotlight, just like you're saying, you know, John Mark McMillan can release tracks this month and so can Megan Brown, and they can both have equal influence regardless of their passion, and then you also look at their background and it adds another layer. You know, with John having been here for years, it has another impact, saying look at this journey he's been on. And then with Megan, to be able to go, you know, she's brand new and look at this maturity she's got already. It's so good to be able to kind of like, you know, parallel both of those.
Yeah, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited to see what else she's got. I mean, I listened to this track on Apple Music and then I immediately bought it, and I was like, I need this song in my life over the next few weeks. So hopefully she's got some new cool music.
Brilliant. Guys, we have reached the end of the podcast.
Oh, this is so sad.
No.
It's a lot of fun.
It is so fun.
I've had fun, and I hope our listeners have as well.
Me too.
But if you've agreed with anything we have said, if you've disagreed, we'd love to hear from you. If you have your own review on a song or an album or an artist that you'd like to send in, please do send it in and we'll read out the best ones. You can either direct message us on Facebook or Instagram, or you can email us at hello@thecathedralmusic.com. So please do get in touch.
Yeah, guys, follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. We'll be posting all the latest stuff that we are up to when podcasts will be coming out. So make sure you don't miss out.
Make sure you go and check out the track list on our website and the playlist on Spotify. So if you've heard anything you've enjoyed throughout today's episode, then you can find it dead easy and quick on either of those platforms.
Join us next month when producer Wild will be with us in the studio for an interview and to bring his Horizon Artist of the Month. We really hope you've enjoyed the episode, but to play us out, here is another song from the Brilliance's new album. This is How Do We Know by the Brilliance.
In the myth we were told in a garden